Hello, I'm the role star, because sometimes a role model just doesn't get the job done. A short while ago, I asked you guys, out of a choice of 3, which you wanted me to cover first. And through the sweet, sciencey magic of Twitter polling, you said you wanted me to review the 2009 Fox Searchlight film Adam as my first subject of The Role Star. I have previously touched upon part of my opinions on this film during my gut reaction to Atypical back in August 2017. Here is my full review of Adam as requested by the Twitter followers of the Aspie Dialogues. Okay, let's get one thing straight here. I've yet to come across a perfect representation of ASD in the media that has pleased everybody, and I doubt I ever will. That said, at the time of its wide home release, the administrators, as well as many of my colleagues at the Keeney Center for Autism Education and Support, went on the record giving their glowing positive reviews of this film. Does it live up to its hype 9 years later? Let's find out. Oh, and before we begin, spoilers. Lots and lots of spoilers. More spoilers than WikiLeaks driving a Maserati during an election year. You've been warned. We open with the voiceover of our not yet introduced to us female protagonist, Beth, telling us a story about a pilot from another planet who crashes in the desert. The prince of the desert takes it upon himself to teach the pilot about love and other earthling social cues. Quite frankly, I would have opened the film with the next scene. We see our male protagonist, Adam, standing at his father's grave as the funeral service wraps up. Shots of this are interspliced with a montage of Adam's daily routine and a display that can only be described as heartbreaking and, "I'm not crying, you're crying. Stop crying, damn it!" Unfortunately for Adam, a disagreement with his manager at work, where he is an electrical engineer designing toys, leads to Adam's dismissal from the company. To make matters worse, Adam is now currently responsible for maintaining the mortgage payments on his house since his father passed away. While all this is going on, Beth, an aspiring children's book author currently working as a kindergarten teacher in the city for the experience, moves into an apartment above him. They forge a friendship over such bonding experiences as stalking families of raccoons in the park after dark, Adam surprising Beth with his projected planetarium in his living room, and Beth watching Adam almost get arrested for watching the kids she's in charge of protecting at work. Adam is, of course, embarrassed by his run-in with the law, and leaves his belongings from his office at the scene. Upon returning them to Adam, Beth learns about his financial crunch. This all leads up to the moment I referenced before in Gut Reactions, about Adam being too upfront with his questioning. Beth learns about Adam's Asperger's syndrome, this is prior to the DSM-5 after all, and begins to help him prepare for his job search. The two friends' budding relationship starts to become more intimate, but Beth's father goes on trial for an abuse of financial responsibilities at his firm. Beth arranges for Adam to meet her parents, Marty and Rebecca, at a show downtown, but Adam's attempts at small talk upset the night when he asks about the upcoming trial, including if Marty can go to jail. All the secrets come pouring out during the trial. Oh boy, do all the secrets come pouring out during the trial. It turns out that Marty gets caught with his pants down during his testimony, with the line of questioning revealing that he had an affair. With Beth and Rebecca watching on as the details of his infidelity were used as possible motive for breaking the law, Marty turns himself in and changes his plea to guilty. But before Adam, who receives the call for Beth while she's out, can tell her, he discovers that Beth had arranged for him to meet her parents without telling him it was prearranged, and proceeds to confront her about it with a violent meltdown. During his meltdown, Adam tells Beth that Marty is going to jail and throws her belongings around. Beth, having had enough of Adam's idiosyncrasies, travels back home to her parents before Marty is required to turn himself over. Now, I should mention that there's a subplot of Adam's friend Harlan helping him out socially as well, But this is pretty much the only point in which they actually help each other out. You see, Adam tells Harlan that he never wants to see or speak to Beth ever again, but Harlan tells him of an old friend he had it out with years ago, and he still regrets the decision to never track her down all those years later and apologize. Adam says he should go and track his friend down and do just that, which Harlan flips back on him. Adam buys some flowers and sets out to Marty's house, having been given the address by Rebecca through voicemail, and attempts to apologize to Beth. Marty attempts to convince Beth that Adam is not and never will be the right man to take care of her and meet her needs. But this sets Beth off even further, all things considered. Sure enough, Adam arrives and attempts to convince Beth to move in with him to California, where he has been offered a job with an observatory. Marty confronts Adam over Beth's future, and the two start fighting over her, upsetting Beth even more. Beth declares she is not property to be fought over and can make her own decisions, opting to go home with Adam. While packing, Beth realizes that though she cares deeply for Adam, she doesn't love him enough to uproot her entire life across country for him. The two say their disappointing goodbyes, but not before Adam tries to convince Beth that he does love her and needs her in his life, although for all the wrong reasons. The next day, Harlan attempts to thank Adam for helping him reconnect with a long-lost friend, but Adam is too depressed over Beth to appreciate the gratitude. 1 year later, Adam is an unrecognizably different person from before. He's sociable, knowledgeable of social norms such as appropriate conversation skills, and can acknowledge when somebody could use his assistance. These are all social cues that he has been shown in the movie to previously miss when he met Beth. He receives a package from Beth and finds a quiet place to open it. Turns out Beth wrote her children's book about a family of raccoons and dedicated it to Adam after all. Enclosed is a personal note from Beth acknowledging that they both have come far in the year that they've spent apart. And that's where it ends. So, was Adam worthy of all the praise at the time? And does it still stand the test of time 9 years later? Yes, and maybe? It depends on how you feel about certain things in this film. For instance, the scene with Beth reading to kids about the story of the Emperor's New Clothes still feels as forced and tacked on in 2018 as it did in 2009, if not even more so. Something about that scene just comes off as contrived and added in just to make a point about Adam having Asperger's syndrome, or even making a case to treat people with Asperger's syndrome with dignity, period. If that's the case, there was so much more wrong in the autism community than I had ever realized. If you need to tack on a scene in the movie just to say, hey, don't be a jerk to a person with a disability, then there is so much wrong that simply tacking on that scene is not going to be able to put a dent in. I mean, like, this is going back to kindergarten, the golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated. If you need to have a scene that comes right out and says that to adults, society has failed. Furthermore, there are more considerations for these kinds of films that weren't necessarily thought of back in 2009. Some would argue that they still aren't being taken as seriously as they need to be, but at least the viewers are thinking of them for now. Since 2009, there have been shows like Parenthood and most recently Atypical, which have had the critical feedback from viewers on the spectrum that they don't want to watch somebody act like they have autism. What they want is somebody who actually is one of them up there on the screen representing them as accurately as possible. Just like any other diversified group, there's more and more frequently that I've noticed a call for more neurodiverse representation in pop culture. In the case of Netflix's Atypical, Spectrumites and their caretakers were upset with how robotic autistic characters usually seem to be portrayed as. In a typical case, it was pretty bad. Even shows like Parenthood don't entirely escape the authenticity check unscathed. In Adam's case, the robot-like portrayal was just subtle enough to be believable to some. That's just the way his character is. But for others, there is the possibility that any robot-like portrayal is still a robot-like portrayal regardless of subtlety. For some, no matter how much research a neurotypical actor can put into these types of roles, it'll never compare to the portrayal of an actor who has the experience of being the patient himself. That said, I still enjoyed it. Maybe slightly less than I did back in 2009, but it still holds up enough to serve as the basis to begin an educated discussion about autism spectrum disorder. So with that, I would recommend at the very least renting it before you buy it. So Netflix, wherever, Hulu, wherever you get your Amazon, you can buy it off of Amazon and iTunes and all them. My verdict? I give Adam 4 stars in the night sky out of 5. Thank you for watching. I'm the role star, because sometimes a role model just doesn't get the job done. Be sure to tune in next month when we cover, finally, Atypical Season 1. Bye-bye.